They-
Ah! The Little Man. What's going on, everyone? Nick here from Little Man yugioh with.
It's Kazarski. What's going on, little buddy?
What's going on? And we today we're going to do something a little different. We're talking Go format today, but not just anything. What happened last weekend?
GOAT Format World Championships.
Go format world championship. My goodness gracious. And I watched a little bit of this footage too, and you saw as well. So what we're doing today, gang, is we are going to be covering some of the deck lists that came up to the top 32. And obviously, as you can see here, lots and lots of Chaos Turbo up here. So what do you think, Kazarski? What do you think when you see this some of this top 32 at Worlds?
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of familiar names, first of all,
Right.
right? We see Ludovico Rizzo, the guy who won. He's a big Edison player.
Hmm.
You and I have played countless games against John Wick, who's he's a past Shonen Jump champion. So
Yeah,
like you
definitely.
have a lot. I think Anthony Alvarado's in here somewhere. So you see a lot of the big players that are playing GOAT, but a lot of Chaos Turbo, a lot of mirror match, and in that aspect, usually better players going to win,
Right.
regardless of going Trinity.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, if you take a brief look, it's lots of similarities between the deck lists too. And it's fascinating that like obviously this format has kind of derived into Turbo being like the best deck. And I personally have one Go format top. It was an in-person GGP in Connecticut, and I played Turbo with it, and it was the deck's amazing. Like, what else could he say? It does everything you needed to do at any point in time. And I know because Archie, you played Turbo a little bit, so like you know those mirror matches. You know what it's like to get to the Trinity pieces first versus your opponent.
Oh yeah. I played pretty much exclusively Chaos Turbo. Not a big Warrior fan, not a big fan of playing those other decks. Mostly because I love having the I have the high rarity goat deck, and that's a lot of the
Right.
reason why I like to play. But as you do as well. But yeah, even if but the thing is with these, like even if your opponent gets to Trinity first, like
Right.
the people who don't play goat format just say, oh, it's the game's over, but it's not.
It's not right.
There's just so much more that goes into it. Even though your opponent's going to have additional cards than you, like what are they doing with those cards,
Right.
and how
Exactly.
important are they?
Right. Exactly. And we definitely saw that in like at least we played in locals a little bit. We played those games, and it's like yeah, like you got to test out like what they have in their hand per se. But like let's go through some of the lists, starting off with the big ones. Obviously, if you look at top four, it's three Chaos Turbo and then one Earthbeat, which is very exciting to see. When I was watching finals and I saw Earthbeat like go game one, I really wanted this deck to win. Like it would be amazing to watch this deck win Worlds, especially since this is like a newer deck over the last year. So obviously we're gonna go over Ludo's build a little bit, but let's go through this. Click on this, hit the screen there. Like, what do you think of this Earthbeat list?
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun to play. First of all, like the goat format can sometimes feel kind of stale because it's all chaos turbo, and then you come in with this earth aggro deck, and it's just like playing goblin attack force is just like a blast from the past. I
Yeah.
fucking love it. Um, but it just looks straight up like your opponent's just never going to keep a monster on the field because you're able to extend with gigantes. You putting out
Right.
these big beaters, and it seems like it'd be a pretty good matchup against Cast Turbo.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think so too. And you see the triple dust shoot in the main deck here. And if you have a bracket full of Chaos Turbo, dust shoot just does like everything that you needed to do in that matchup. And you're a fast aggro deck that takes advantage of dust shoot pretty much better than any other aggro deck in the format. So it's like you have the DD Assailants. Oh my god, I have the Seekers too. They look so nice.
Oh, those are beautiful.
Beautiful. I mean, this deck Hollow Out is beautiful, but obviously massive congrats to Shifty on the second place finish. Incredible one. So going over to now Ludo's list, and personally for me, it looks a lot like a list I top the GGP with. It had the one dust sheet. I think the difference is I didn't play Book of Moon, and I didn't play Torrential, and I played two Solemn Judgments instead. But he sides into the Metamorphosis Go package. So curious to get your thoughts, Kazarski. What do you think on this? The Go package here, and like we're seeing that more and more throughout these lists here.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that because you need ways to answer warriors, right?
Right.
Basically, but now in addition to that, you have to have ways to answer Earth aggro, and I didn't get a chance to watch the full finals,
Mm-hmm.
but I would assume that Metamorphosis and Scapegoat put in a lot of work against Earth aggro because
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be able to stymie their extension with Gigantes and having multiple monsters in the field with Scapegoat, and then the next turn just take back the advantage by sucking one of them up with 1,000 Eyes Restrict.
Right. Right.
I think it did. And really, especially those. I'm assuming the decrees were really good against them too because they're going to stop all their defense.
Yeah, he sided really hard into chaos control for these matchups here, which is really interesting, like just as it is. I do like the one jar green one, and obviously Boing Blast in the main deck. I love that card in Edison format. I love that card in Go format. I do think it's the superior discard trap, and obviously it took him far to a finish here. So obviously massive congrats over to Ludo. Let's go through some of the other lists here that are lists like kind of standing out. Anything here? What about this Recruiter Chaos Control by Juvie89? Let's take a look at this sucker right here. What do you think of this? The one Shining Angel in the main deck, double Zaborgs, the double Chaos Sorcerers. There's a lot of interesting cards in here. We're all decrees to support the trap cards. What's your take on this one here, man?
There's a lot going on this deck. Personally, I am not a fan of trapless decks. You will not see me play decks that don't have traps. And as you can see from my past videos, I'm playing Hero Beat, Hero Beat right, DV Hero Beat right now, which plays a boatload of traps. But I mean, it worked out for him. I mean, he's got a top a top 8 finish with this build. But I think what's good about this is that this deck's going to keep monsters on the field.
Right. Right, and
you want to good.
Right, I was about to say, like, we're seeing the inclusion of Spirit Reaper within the main deck here, and Spirit Reaper coming up in like a lot of these lists, as a matter of fact, which is between Turbo and like even between this Chaos Control-esque list, and Control is really having a tough time here. And here's the other deck that I really like by Grumple Skillskin, who's been really tearing up the scene with this like flip warrior. It's like a warrior good stuff deck with the spies and the Zaborgs, and he had the Solemns and he had the Dust. I picked this deck up a couple of days ago, and I was playing some like rated matches with it, and it plays pretty well to itself. And it's very interesting that Go format kind of came all circle to where like these decks that look like they were made in 2005 are still doing well in the competitive meta scene. And I thought this deck was going to be a lot more everywhere than where it was. But like, Matt, do you see this like in the local scene so much? Like, are people playing decks that look a lot like this warrior flip kind of deal?
Yeah, recently, no, actually. I go to a Goat Local right by my house every Monday. Shout out to Rip and Chip Gaming in Deer Park, Long Island, New York. But most of us are playing, a different Chaos variant, or just straight Warriors. And you have one person who plays Reasoning Control, which is really hard for me. It's always difficult to play against. But something like this with like Zaborgs and just really good stuff. Not recently. I do love the Zing Zang Hu though in the main deck.
Yes,
I love that.
The card is so good. It definitely allows you to lock down like those scapegoats, those back rows, the things that hurt right there. And obviously, again, we're just seeing DD Assailants, we're seeing Zaborgs. And Gravekeeper Spy is proving to be like a very good card too. Like I have this, I'm almost up the guard at this point where I just want additional targets where I could just pull dudes out of the deck which is really cool. And then obviously, like, look, we have some Go Control right here. Panda Burn making some of appearance here. It's funny how there's like not a lot of warrior here. At least there's obviously two right here, but like there's warrior really got blocked out. And as you see here, if you look at any of these turbo lists, like they're seeing, well, not so much like this one, but that you're seeing the ones that have the metamorphosis and the scapegoats is like really pushing, or like some form of it. Even I just grabbed this random list purple junk right here. Obviously, 3 jar agrees, but we see some elements of the control aspect in the side deck. It's very cool to counter the warrior strategy.
Yeah, there was a point in time, I would say a couple of months ago, where I switched over to Go Control because it just has a better matchup against Turbo, but also a better matchup against Warriors.
Right.
And that was the reason why I was playing it for a little while, and then I went back to Turbo just because I had more fun playing it. But if you actually go back, Nick, there was one other list that played right below this that played triple Spirit Reaper. Let's take a look at that one.
Oh, yeah.
Right there, this is super interesting.
Go for it.
Triple Spirit Reaper. I love this. You're basically saying like, unless you have a tribe infecting virus or a DD warrior lady, like I'm just always gonna have a board presence here.
Yeah.
And then being able to kind of just stall, and not really stall, but just kind of bide your time until you're able to set up for the big push. Like I know a lot of times I find myself just holding a sorcerer or two, or even or sorcerer and BLS in my hand until I can, until you're able to make that push for game. And Spirit Reaper is going to keep your life points intact until that happens.
Yeah, and I also think it's like obviously it's a good aggressive option too, because let's also think it pairs well with Wing Blast, right? Where Wing Blast kind of resets the tempo, and then Reaper just takes care of the cards that's already in the hand. So really minimizing the options of having to deal with cards like that. I like how that kind of comes. I also just love this trap lineup as is, like the 2 jars, the 2 dust shoots, the Wing Blasts. I mean, the Zambira is very random. I mean, it makes sense. It helps push through Spy, defense position sorcerers, Kaiku to Ghost Destroyers. And we saw Alvarado. He won a I think it's like I don't know. I think it's one of those like PWC, those Go Format Patreon cups, and he had 3 of those things in the deck. So
wow.
Yeah, this is a very cool list here, but like you have a lot of aggression options through Spirit Reaper. Spirit Reaper really was really the one here. And then let's take a look at some other Reasoning Gate Turbo. Oh, yes.
That's top 2. That's really good.
Look at this one.
I'm not a fan of this. It's just, I mean, it's good. It's just, again, for me, it's not my play style, but it's kind of hard to play against this deck. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think this deck is definitely, if sometimes they just draw the sauce, and that's like, what are you gonna do, right? Like they're gonna dunk on you, and they're gonna have everything that they need. This one's not going through the mass driver stuff, even though it has some element of that. But it's crazy how even like combo decks like this could succeed in formats in this 2005 format as is. It really shows how everything could do it. But obviously, yeah, you don't really see. You have this interesting turbo list that has 3 Wing Blasts and then 2 Dust Shoot. But like you see here, turbo was everywhere. Turbo was absolutely everywhere. Now, I got to ask you this. So you obviously see turbo taking up a significant portion of top cut. And if you're a new person looking into Go format, what would you feel objectively if this is like the first thing that you base things off of? Like, what would your thought be of the format?
So not knowing anything, I look at this and I just say, okay, this is the best deck.
Right.
That's my thought. The thing is, whenever anyone asks me, and I actually get asked this question more often than I thought I would, but like someone who's coming into GOAT format for the first time, like what deck should I play? I get that asked about Edison too, but
right.
I definitely, I mean, how do you feel about this? Because I don't recommend playing Chaos Turbo as a new GOAT player.
A new GOAT player? Do you feel like it's just like a skill tree thing, or do you feel like it kind of is it flows so easily. Like sometimes the deck is just so smooth where like with some of the control decks, you have to really work for your pluses or some. Like when I'm playing anything else, I do feel like I have to work a little bit more for my stuff. Do you feel like Chaos Turbo is harder, or do you think it's to build the fundamentals of Go format? They just need to play something else.
Yeah, like I think in the mirror match of Chaos Turbo, and I said this earlier, the better player most of the time is going to win, unless they the other person opens up just the nuts. But
Right.
when you're just learning Goat format, like Chaos Turbo can be very intricate. You get a lot of times in the mirror match, you get into these crazy game states of like,
Mhm.
everyone's someone, I don't even know, like you just have these game states where you have to pick apart back row, get rid of
Right.
these monsters. You gotta when to hold your chaos sorcerers and when to drop BLS, because usually from my experience at locals, the people who are dropping those chaos sorcerers or BLS just to swing in for the additional damage when it's not game is those people are going to lose the game.
Right.
So when I recommend someone to play Go format for the first time, I usually tell them to play Warriors. It's very straightforward. You get to
Yeah.
learn as you go, and it's not like the most difficult deck to play with.
Right. It also has that factor of just like putting a bunch of big monsters on the field and then like attacking, right? Like it's definitely a much more simplified game state mechanic. I think it is definitely better for people who are newer to Yu-Gi-Oh in general, but yeah, I would say that Warriors is a good pickup too. I think that Go Control is like a very intricate deck, and like I even fiddle around with it a little bit. It's like it's tough to do well with for sure. You really got to work for it. Like obviously if you see this list right here, right? Like this is one of the highest placing Go Control lists in the entire um bracket. And even we're seeing elements of like Turbo, like with spies in the main deck, one decoy to get to catch with Nox, triple meta, triple decree, triple scapegoat. Like this is one of these decks that you really have to work for versus what you're saying with Warrior. So like I definitely get what you're saying there.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. One thing I wanted to ask, actually, Nick, what your thoughts were on you see some Chaos Turbo lists with Solemn Judgment and some without. What do you like? What are your thoughts on that?
I've tried to remove judgments from my deck, and I feel like it's not right. I mean, obviously, you see the turbo list that did well. You see a lot of judgment here. Like they were not really caring about burn so much. And obviously, if you played burn at this event and you drew hot, like you were going to do well at this event. But it looks like people were pretty much off it. But people were ready for their mirror matches here, and I think that's a solemn judgment in the mirror match is so huge. Like when you saw
Yeah,
the graceful charity when they have like Thunder Dragon, it's like you feel like you could sort of play the game at that point, even though you did lose half your life points, but you're losing half your life points to like do like something awesome. You know what I mean?
yeah. I'm a big fan of Solemn Judgment in Chaos Turbo too. I think a lot of that is player preference. It's just like playing Regeki Break over Wing Blast, vice versa,
Right.
and I'm sure you and I a 3 hour video as to why we like Wing Blast over.
Yeah. I I
Uh,
I think I just think like Wing Blast in general, like Raigeki Break just feels so bad sometimes. It's just like who cares?
yeah, I love being
Common
able to
level.
set them back a turn.
Exactly, exactly. It's just like it's so far ahead. It just puts you so much further in tempo. What else could he say about it? Like, what else could he say about that?
Yeah, not much.
But yeah, that's we're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna wrap it up here. But any closing thoughts on this on the top cut or go format going forward or anything like that?
I'm wondering if there's going to be a meta shift going forward because it doesn't happen as much in Goat format as it does in Edison. But like, you got all these people playing Chaos Turbo. What is going to be the next thing that's going to be good against them?
Right.
Like, are we going to see more Warriors now? We're going to see more Earth aggro because they got second.
Yeah.
What is going to be created to combat Chaos Turbo?
I almost wonder if like the Mystic Swordsman level twos are gonna go like right back into the main deck, like multiple copies, because you see a lot of those lists going 1 and 1, and then when Turbo won several years ago, the Warrior list that came in second or third had 3 MS2s in the main deck. So, there's definitely ways to come back Turbo there, but I definitely think the same. It's going to be interesting seeing where Go format goes going format. I definitely want to play a little bit more next season, and because like we like to play Edison, but we like to play other older formats too. So, hope you guys enjoy this discussion. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Amaryllis giveaway happening. I hope all of you are enjoying the rest of your evening. Peace.
See you later.
Boom.